Welcome to another GCN Tech Clinic. This week, I answer your questions on tri-bars, travelling with tubeless tyres and fixed gear conversions. And as ever, if you've got any questions for us that are tech related, fire them down in the comments below or via social media using the hashtag AskGCNTech. So, without further ado, I'm going to begin this week with a question from P. Becker, who says, I still see S-bends on TT bar extensions, but isn't that an outdated system compared to ski bends? Aren't ski bends more aerodynamic and more comfortable? Are there any advantages to S-bends? Well, comfort is a personal thing. Based on experience, most people are faster with the higher hands and the sort of J-bend or ski bend shape, and the S-bend works for some people, but fewer. I just think that bike manufacturers, when they're speccing their bikes, haven't quite caught up with this trend yet, and that's why we're still seeing those flatter bars specced on the bikes with that sort of S-bend shape. But it's probably something that's going to change, and there's plenty of aftermarket options you can go for. I'd suggest trying it yourself with some different things and then seeing how you fare, because, well, you see riders like Tony Martin and Cancellara, lower hands, so some riders are even faster with wider arms as well, like Dowsett. It's just one of those things. The next question is from Kedar Kulkarni, who says, which is the best bottom bracket standard? That question is a complete can of worms, but I'm going to open it. Right, so there are different bottom bracket standards out there, and you've got bottom brackets like BB30 and other press fit systems where you have a carbon shell, carbon bottom bracket, and bearings are pressed into the carbon fibre. You then have other systems where you have a carbon shell, but then a machined alloy sleeve is then fitted into that shell, and then the bearings are pressed into that sleeve. You then have completely alloy systems where you have, say, a steel bike or an aluminium bike, and then you can screw or thread a bottom bracket directly into the frame. Now, the problem, these systems all have relative advantages and disadvantages. So BB30 press fit systems are very light, they're the lightest bottom brackets. But problems can arise because manufacturing carbon fibre to extremely high tolerances that you'd want in a bottom bracket is much more difficult to achieve than it is with alloy components that can be machined directly with, lathes and other machines like that. So that can cause problems with the tolerances. My best solution that I'm the biggest fan of is having a carbon frame, because carbon bikes are light and incredibly stiff and they're just brilliant. But then having an alloy sleeve that can then be fitted into that carbon frame with external bottom bracket cups, a bit like the threaded bottom bracket I've got on my Pinarello F12. The next question is from Reese Morgan, who says, hi guys, I'm looking to convert my old Specialized Alley into a single-speed do-it-all commuter. Awesome project, like it. Now he says, with it being a vertical dropout, he knows that he's going to need some kind of tensioner for the chain, stop it dropping. Yes, you will. That's important. But he would like to avoid having a chain tensioner on the stay at the back because he wants to keep the bike looking clean and tidy. So yeah, a little chain tensioner would be like a little sort of jockey wheel system that fits onto the rear chainstay. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, this is important because normally on a single speed bike, you have a track dropout, like on a track bike or a fixie. And this is a horizontal dropout that allows you to slide the rear wheel horizontally across to take up slack in the chain and adjust the chain tension perfectly. But when you're doing a conversion, they often have a vertical dropout like on most road bikes, because they don't need to take the chain tension in that way, because normally you'd have a derailleur there, but you're taking the derailleur away, right? So you need another solution. There is a solution, Reese, and that would be an eccentric hub. Now, there's a few on the market. White Industries make one, and this is kind of like an ingenious engineering idea. So the axle of these hubs is off center by, I think, 7.5 millimeters. So what you do is you fit this hub. You'd need to obviously fit it onto a wheel that you would use, but you put the offset axle bolts into your dropouts, and then you can twist the offset axle away from the bottom bracket in a kind of like arc to take up the chain and the slack in the chain and get it right, and then you just tighten them where you need them. Something else that's also recommended is actually using half chain links. So instead of using like a full chain link, you can get half chain links. And you can get those in different gauges as well, depending on the type of chain you're using. So there's all different ones available. But that's another way you can use to fine tune your chain tension as well. But yeah, it's definitely possible. You don't need a tensioner. Next question is from the Davo Wade, who says, "Hey team, I replaced the brake pads on my bike running SRAM Red HRD. Now, of course, following John's great instructional video, it is a good one, but now the brake levers have too much travel compared to the last time when a professional replaced the pads. Do you think the hydraulics need bleeding, or is there something else I should look at first? Maybe I should remove and refit the pads to check. Thanks." Right, well, first up, pump the brake lots and hold it on, because something you might have done is just push the pistons right in and fully reset them, which means the pads are quite far out, and that's why it feels like there's a lot of travel when the brakes are coming in a long way. But yeah, check that, because the pads will reset themselves and sort of self-adjust, and that system is built in. That's why your brakes feel consistent even when the pads wear. They stay the same distance away from the disc. But there is also a chance that you have contaminated the system. You know, you could well have introduced some air bubbles at some point and you've only just noticed it, or maybe some dirt or even water. In that case, it may be worth bleeding them. And to be honest, if you don't know how to bleed brakes or you've not done it before, it's a skill that's well worth learning and doing, and it's not as difficult as you might think, as long as you've got the right tools. And John has done an excellent video explaining it, which we'll post a link down in the description below. But if there is a spongy feel to your brakes, or there is loads of travel, it could mean there is quite a bit of air in the system that you need to get rid of. And last question this week comes from Ronald Beruti, who says, "I'm traveling by plane to a ride in Colombia in the mountains." So Cy Richardson right now, so keep an eye out for him out there, but I'm very jealous. He says he's got tubeless Continental GP 5000 tyres on his bike, and on previous trips with clincher tyres, he's deflated his tyres down to like 40 psi to account for the air pressure change on the plane. And with his tubeless tyres, he's worried that the tyres will leak, and they'll leak air, they'll leak sealant, they'll unseat, and then mounting them back on in Colombia will be impossible with a mini pump. What do we recommend? Is deflating tyres for an airplane just a myth? Right, good question. Well, there's lots of questions there. Right, firstly, deflating tyres for an airplane. I travel a lot with a bike in a plane, right? And there have been times when I've forgotten to deflate my tyres. I've been in a rush or whatever, and there's been absolutely no problem whatsoever. That said, airlines do ask you to deflate your tyres, and on occasion I have had my tyres checked. They've opened up the bike bag and checked that I've deflated my tyres. So I would say it's best to deflate them, and don't try and sneak that through. It's just not worth the stress or the potential hassle. The next thing is traveling with tubeless. Yeah, if you're gonna deflate your tyres and you've got sealant in there, it will leak out all over whatever else is in your bike bag. So probably take the sealant out, clean your tyres. That can be a bit of a faff. And then you're absolutely right, once you get to the other side, you're gonna have to work out a way that you can guarantee you're gonna be able to set your tyres up tubeless again. So you probably would have to take sealant with you, and sometimes you can seat some tubeless tyre rim combinations with a mini pump. You can do it, but some combinations don't work. So if you can't do that with your particular tubeless tyre rim combination, you may need to take a compressor, which if you're traveling on a long haul flight, you might not have space for. The solution, inner tubes. It's just going to be much easier, because factor in as well, when you fly back from Colombia, if you ever do come back, I'm guessing you're coming back, then you're going to have to take your sealant out and clean it again, because otherwise that's just going to come in your luggage when you come back. So yeah, fortunately you can run tubeless tyres with inner tubes, and according to Aero Coach recently, they reckoned that it didn't actually affect the rolling resistance in any way whatsoever, because that was down to the tubeless tyres construction. So take some inner tubes, and if you want to get good rolling resistance, take latex inner tubes. But yeah, that would be I think the best, most sensible way to do it. I think anything for an easy life. I hope you found this tech clinic useful and informative, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up, and also keep your questions coming in using the hashtag AskGCNTech on social media and in the comments section. And keep an eye out this weekend for a video that's going to be on my hour record track bike, because there's a load of cool sort of tech clinic-y stuff in that where I've had to adjust the drivetrain to make it fit a 11-speed chain rather than a track chain. It's all about the gains.